But yeah, one of the things about so like having worked in rehab and like substance abuse counseling and stuff like that,
Yarg.
I can tell you that for the most part, people who are doing drugs, they don't want to hurt you because they understand that like people who are addicted to substances, people living with addiction, like they really just want to get their they really just want to get their next fix. That's primarily what they want. And the reality is that if, some random person who's who doesn't have a criminal record gets attacked near them, that's going to cause a lot of police to show up. That's going to cause a lot of attention to go to that area. People are going to start looking at CCTVs and they're going to start collecting evidence, and that's going to lead to a lot of questions being asked. And people living with substance abuse, they understand that that also means that now that those CCTVs are being looked at more closely, they're going to start noticing people handing money and little baggies back and forth. And now you have a whole lot of problems that start showing up. So, this house that they're living in, it's not a very good trap house, but it's kind of a trap house. A trap house is just a word for a place where you go get drugs. A trap anything is a place where you go to get drugs. If it's a hotel, it's called a trap hotel. If it's a house, it's called a trap house. They're also known as traps. And usually they are abandoned or semi abandoned or condemned structures. Sometimes they have traps set up inside of them. So, for example, you'll take a crutch, when you have your leg injured and you're walking with crutches, they'll take one of those. They'll duct tape a knife to the like part that goes under your shoulder, the saddle, I guess, of the crutch, and then they will basically take that crutch, and they will set it up on a stairwell, and they will put it under tension, a lot of tension, and they will take the release for that and put it to a pressure plate on the stairs. So when someone steps on the stair, the crutch flies down, and ideally, the knife goes into their chest or their head. It's one of those things to get rid of trespassers because someone potentially has thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars worth of drugs in there, and just loose cash because it's all dirty money. So
Yeah. Hasn't been
it's
laundered yet.
yeah, yeah. Usually they don't launder it. Money laundering is usually when you have people who are wealthier. That's usually like the mob, organized gangs, where they want to actually purchase something. They have to launder it.
Or your
But if
name is
it's
Walter.
yeah, if it's something that where the money's just going to be used on the black market, you don't have to launder it. But if you want to use it on the white market or the gray market, you do. You have to launder it. For those of you who don't know, white markets are like going to your local store and buying official goods that you're allowed to purchase. A gray market was like Amazon back in the day before they paid taxes. So if you don't know, anything you bought on Amazon before they required sales tax to be factored in, you were actually supposed to go collect your receipts and then pay a certain amount of sales tax on your end with your tax return
Hmm.
when you filed your taxes. That's how it was supposed to work. And they realized nobody was doing that, so they just updated it. eBay can be considered a gray market because most of the time people aren't paying sales tax on eBay. I think the sellers are supposed to pay sales tax or something like that. They're supposed to factor it into the price, but the buyers don't necessarily do so.
Oh, on eBay, eBay just makes the just puts the sales tax in the middle of it because I've sold a few times
Hmm.
on eBay. They just add the sales tax, so they've got
Okay,
that
that
worked
makes
in.
sense. There is also there's actually the really obvious gray market, which is furry art. So
Oh
there's
yeah,
been crackdowns on
commissions.
this in the past, but basically you'll have a you'll have an artist. The artist is charging, say, $125 for a piece of art, and someone then wants to commission them to do that artwork. So, what they will do is they will send them that money through Zelle or PayPal, or they'll give it to them in person with just cold hard cash. Sometimes they'll mail them the money, but there's no tax paid on it or anything like that. So a lot of indie artists or artists who aren't big enough to be making to really need to be paying tax, or they're new, or they want to sidestep taxes. Tax fraud is a felony, by the way, just so you know. And it is a suit that you will almost guaranteedly lose. So that is an example of a gray market. And then the black market is so to define it, white market, it's official, people are paying taxes, you're only allowed to sell what is regulated for you to sell. Gray markets, you're not paying taxes. Typically what is being sold is not illegal, or it exists in a legal gray area. And then you have the black market, which is illegal stuff. Obviously none of it is taxed. How do you tax illegal things, right? So to give you an example of that, let's take cannabis, marijuana. So before Colorado decriminalized marijuana, it was sold in the black market. Once they decriminalized it, if you were just buying marijuana, you could buy it on the gray market. Then when they legalized it, you could buy it on the white market. So that's sort of how that's going. Okay, so trap houses, they operate on the black market. And so Jeremy probably just has a bunch of cash laying around if he's selling people drugs. The problem with black markets is because they are not regulated at all by their very nature. Stuff can be laced with all kinds of things. In today's world, most stuff will be laced with fentanyl if it is laced with anything. Sometimes it's just incidental because people aren't held to any kind of storage standard. Sometimes it is intentional. Maybe that person just really doesn't like you and never wants you to come back again, ever, or really exist anymore. So they just put like a lethal dose of fentanyl in it, and then you go and you use the drug because you think it's just whatever, and then you're dead. So, so yeah. But I think I was talking about how most of the time people who do drugs don't want any trouble, and that is because they know if they get caught, they're going to be drug tested. When you get when you go to jail, you get drug tested. You don't have a choice about this. As soon as you go into a jail, a lot of your rights just vanish. So they collect a UA of you, a P sample. They check it, and when they find all these drugs in your system, they're going to start charging you with stuff. So if you're a repeat offender, they probably just put you in jail, and they keep you there, and they really just push back when you're going to see a judge pretty far, typically, as far as they're allowed to, and just to keep you off the streets. And then you see the judge, you pretty much just get absolutely screwed. Um, or if they're really cruel, they put you on parole, and they give you a free bail because you're not hurting anyone really. And they tell you have to get U8 on a regular basis, you're going to do it randomly, and you're not allowed to use any drugs, including alcohol. Good luck. And so when someone fails their drug test, they pretty much go straight to jail and stay there. For months. So that's not good. So the main thing is people who do drugs, they don't want any trouble. If they see someone who's lost, it'll be just like what you're seeing here. Yeah. They'll pretty much just be like, "Hey, what do you want?" Yeah, you're clearly not someone who's supposed to be. You're clearly not someone who's normal here. If you tell them that you want to do drugs, they'll be like, I mean, I don't know about that. You probably don't want this life. The thing about addicts is no one wants to be an addict. Being an addict sucks. Being on drugs sucks. Like the drug itself is really fun, whatever it is. You're having a great time. You use marijuana, you're having a good time when you're on marijuana. Okay, sounds good. And if you do it like once a month or once every 6 months or once a year or something, you're probably fine. The thing is, when you get to where addicts are, where they need to be doing it on a daily basis, so they start having problems, they resent it. They hate it because it stops being something that they're doing just for fun to enhance their lives, and it starts being something that they have to do to just continue to exist in any kind of functional way.
I can confirm that from someone I used to know years and years ago. Uh,
Hmm.
they were they were a smoker, and I went out on the porch at our parents' place where we were, and rolled up a piece of paper and kind of lit the back of it, lit one end of it, and stuck the other end in my mouth and kind of inhaled a little bit. Like, look, I'm smoking. And he goes, "Don't start smoking." He spits. He goes, "It's a nasty habit." And I was like, "Okay, I will never smoke." He's like, "Good."
Yep.
So can't confirm. Good people that are addicted to drugs, uh, that are addicts, they don't want. They know it sucks. They'll actually tell you don't do it. If they're a shit person, they might tell you to do it. If they're a dealer, they'll probably tell you to do it.
They might just also be like, hey, this is really fun. You should try it. Because they're looking at it as you'll have this fun experience. Because they haven't hit the point where they just don't like being they don't like being addicts anymore.
I
But
guess that's true too. Yeah, that's
yeah,
a good
but
point.
but here's also the thing. Like, if you do a drug once, it's probably not going to get you addicted unless it's something like heroin. Do not do opioids, by the way. Avoid fentanyl at all costs. Avoid any kind of opioid drug at all costs. There's I brought it up before, so I'm not going to bring it up again. But there's a graph that you can find that basically shows like harm to society on on like the vertical, and then harm to the self on the horizontal. And almost all of the opioids are right at the top right, which means they're harmful to you and society. So harmful to everyone. And so, if whoever's watching this does decide that they want to try drugs at some point, look at that graph and make an informed decision. And when you find something that you're potentially interested in, look up how addictive it is. Because your number one goal with anything is to not get addicted to it. If you decide you want to try marijuana, okay, marijuana has a fairly low addiction rate. Okay, you're going to go, you have a great time. The general rule of thumb is don't do it again until you feel like you don't want it anymore. When you feel like you've forgotten about it and you don't need it anymore, and you're not like, I want to try that again, that's when you can try it again if you want to. Um, the general consensus among people who are not just completely destitute due to drugs is that any kind of drug is not going to be worth the money. That's the big thing. It is, you're paying a lot of money for a very short term experience that you're probably not going to enjoy very much. It will feel good. You might feel great, but it'd be better just to take care of other issues or go do something more meaningful, if that makes any sense. So, would you rather hike to the top of a mountain, camp there, and watch the sunrise? Or would you rather do acid? Right, one of these is probably going to give you a better memory because you'll be able to do it with other people. You'll be fully cognizant. You'll have a lot of fun with them potentially. So there's things. But yeah, most of the time, if you're around a trap house and people know that you're not a cop, they'll pretty much just be like, "What are you doing? Get out of here." You don't want this. If they think you're a cop, they might do all kinds of things, just depending. Most of the time, if they're just the addicts, they'll run. They'll get out of there. If they are the people selling, you don't want the people selling thinking you're a cop. Because best case scenario is they don't talk to you, they sort of barricade themselves in place, and everyone sort of just disappears. Worst case scenario, they kill you. Well, that's not actually the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is they abduct you, they torture you, and then after all of that, coming to the conclusion that you're not a cop, there's kind of too much baggage for them to let you just leave, so then they kill you. So, so there's a worse option. There's also an even worse option than that, which is where they come to this conclusion, and instead of killing you, they sell you to human trafficking. So that's horrible. So yeah, just avoid trap houses, avoid trap hotels. If you find yourself at one and you're very confused as to what's going on, and there's people sticking stuff in their arms and people popping pills and putting foil in their mouths, you're just like, what the hell is going on? As soon as you realize that you're in a trap, you should probably leave. Do not accept anything from anyone. Do
Probably don't
not put
even talk
anything
to
in your mouth.
anybody.
Yeah, yeah. Like if you're lost, just ask someone for directions. Worst case scenario is you get mugged, but don't accept anything from anyone. Don't don't trust anyone there. Just be like, hey, so I think I'm lost. I'm trying to get to this place. You know how to get there, and just for them to make you disappear because you're clearly not one of them, they'll just tell you, yeah, it's over there. Get out of here. Bye.
Yeah, it's like,
If you feel
okay.
yeah, if you feel uncomfortable doing that, just leave. But yeah, usually it traps. No one wants any problems. It's just too much trouble, and they do not want to deal with that. But yeah, I remember there was a story where I think it was our parents. They were visiting a town. I forget what the town was, but they're buying a house somewhere or something. And so my dad goes and finds the cheapest hotel in the city. There's a reason that hotel is the cheapest hotel in the city. It's a trap hotel. So they were there and they were at their trap hotel. And then they were trying to sleep and and they heard gunshots and they heard someone screaming and they were just like, you know what? I think we're gonna get out of here. So they packed up their stuff, put it in the car, and drove to like a more reputable hotel.
Oh, those your parents?
Yeah, yeah, those are
Yeah.
their parents. Those were the parents. So it happens. But the main thing is this, okay? You had two people who very clearly did not belong there, right? They were not accosted. They were not harassed. People mostly just avoided them because they're like, okay, these are two outsiders who don't know what's going on. They don't understand, so we're just gonna leave them the hell alone, and hopefully they leave us alone. So because it's not worth the trouble. Because what happens if they harass them? They probably call the police. So now the police have a reason to come into the trap hotel. So the police, knowing it's a trap hotel, they don't just show up with one patrol car. They show up with an entire like task force almost to go into the trap hotel because now they have a good reason to. Because they
They
need to
show up with a very
interview.
clearly marked fan
Yeah,
that
has free
says
candy on it.
that says no. It is very clearly marked with police.
Yeah, yeah. Because now they have a reason, an excuse to go in there. So, it's just better for everyone involved to just avoid that whole situation. But yeah, it is what it is. How about you, Tats? You got anything?
No, I made it a point early on to avoid anything of that lifestyle. So I'm a shut-in. I'm sheltered, and I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily a bad thing to avoid that lifestyle.
Nope.
It it is one of those things. There's a saying. Another you know, from my time working in addiction, there is a saying that when people get sick and tired of being sick and tired, they get off drugs
Pretty much.
because the reality is that drugs make you sick and they make you tired
Doesn't it apply
because
for
they
like other things too, or apply to other things as well?
it can.
But it's mostly a drug-related phrase.
It's I mean it can apply to a ton of things, but
Oh, okay.
the biggest thing is it's usually used in drugs. So the the unfortunate reality is that a lot of people, their lives are just so unenjoyable, we'll say, that they turn to any kind of substance to avoid that life, to so that they can just forget about that life for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's
Sucks.
incredibly sad to see. But at the same time, you look at it and it's like, okay, well, it's the Rust Belt.
It's
There are
West
no
Virginia.
jobs. Yeah, it's West Virginia.
They don't really have anything else going on.
Correct. There's no opportunity. There are no jobs. There are very few colleges. There's very little that you can actually do to move forward in life. It's very
Except
difficult
leave.
to leave. It's also very difficult to leave. Like this is the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily get. It's like yeah, you'll see some what I consider disreputable newscasts just be like, well, if it's too expensive to live somewhere, or you don't have enough, or you don't have any opportunity somewhere, well, then just leave. It's like, okay, but I also have all my stuff. I also have a car potentially, or I don't have a car. I have all this stuff that I need to take with me, right? I can't just. I mean, I could theoretically just walk off and leave everything there, but now all that is going to get essentially impounded by the state and then eventually just discarded. So if I don't care about any of that, fantastic. If it's just trash, then who cares? But most of the time, by the point where this is relevant to someone, at minimum when they turn 18, maybe they have a computer, maybe they have a car, maybe they have mementos or memories, maybe they have all kinds of stuff, and they need to shove all that into a car and take off. There's the other things. They're probably in debt. They probably have a lease that they're paying. They probably have car payments they're paying. They're probably, if they can, maybe they're working odd jobs or maybe they're handyman or something that's paying their bills. You know, they just want to get out of paradise as no, they want to get out of perfection and move to Bixby as soon as they can. But you know, someone just offers them one last job. Those of you who don't get it, I'm making reference to Trimmers.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's what I was thinking. That sounds like Tremors.
and so they get stuck in that life, right? And but it's expensive to move. Like think about it. If I'm in West Virginia, I'm not in West Virginia, but if I was and I wanted to move to an area with more opportunity, okay, well I got to pack up all my stuff, put it in my car. Let's say I don't have a car. Okay, well I pack up what I can. Hopefully there's somebody who can hold on to my other stuff, or I can give it away.
Well, that's even given you have something you could pack some stuff into. Like you might not even
Yeah,
have a suitcase or a burlap bag or anything like that. A canvas
I can
bag. You
probably
might
get a
not have
bag.
any of that.
I can probably get a bag.
You could probably go searching around a parking lot or trash dumpster somewhere, and you get this holy ass piece of crap that's full of fleas and shit.
Maybe I might be able to go to a charity or something and ask if they have just like a bag I can.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, that's
planning
true.
on leaving. Can they give me a bag or? Something like one of the ways you can actually get out of these kinds of places is if you go to a charity that's a national charity and you tell them, "Hey, I want to get out of this state. I'm willing to go work somewhere if you guys have a location where people live on site." And they probably will, because that's actually one of the ways those charities have long-term employees
No, cool.
is yeah, like Salvation Army and stuff. Sometimes they will have places like little, essentially little closets that are just big enough for a bed and have like a little chest at the
Pull a
foot of the
Harry
bed.
Potter.
Yeah, basically. But when I say when I say it is a closet with a bed and a chest at the foot of the bed, it is a single bed, not a twin. It's a single, so it's just wide enough for you to crawl on top of and lay down. Your shoulders might be touching the walls. Hopefully, it's not that thin. It's probably colder. It's probably cold or hot as hell in there because it probably doesn't have a window. And that little chest probably doesn't have a lock on it or anywhere to lock it. And you just sleep on the bed, and then you get up and you work. And if you get fired or you quit, you don't have a place to stay anymore. They probably pay you minimum wage, if anything, and the rent that they are charging you for that bed is coming out of your pay. So, but I mean, it's better than just walking, I guess, or not having any kind of plan, because you could put in your 6 to 8 hours there at the charity and then go work another full time job somewhere. So, there are also group homes that you can potentially get into, halfway houses, stuff like that. But the main thing is that it's incredibly difficult to leave these places because if you live in West Virginia and you have no opportunity and you really just don't know how to get out of there, well, if you want to move, one, you have to get enough money to where you're satisfying all your bills. It's a big one. Two, you need to satisfy the amount of money you're going to need when you actually move to a different location. Three, you need to account in like gas and bills and food and all this other stuff. So all of that is basically saying you need multiple months worth of money at least to be able to leave. And if you don't have a job, you don't even have access to that. And the thing that's even worse about this is that most of the time, as someone I know who has been moving around a lot, he has his master's in accounting, but he moves around a lot. As he's finding out, if you don't have an address in that city where you live, a lot of people won't even hire you, like flat out. They
Yeah.
want you to be living in that city, in that town, potentially for years already before they will even consider hiring you. And if you don't, it's a massive black spot against you.
Or you got to be very qualified, like
Mhm.
overqualified, and say that you have the intention of moving there and can actually prove that you have a place picked out.
Yep.
Then they
So,
will say, okay, you're qualified. You could probably get here. We'll tentatively hire you, see if you can actually secure a spot, quote unquote secure. Don't actually buy it until we actually send you an offer.
mhm.
Because at that point, you start getting into legal stuff where if they offer you a job, like an actual offer to hire you, they've gone through the whole process and said, "Yeah, we would like to hire you. Here's the application, or actually, it's past that. Here's the actual job offer. Sign it, and you're hired." And then you go and you secure a lease, and then they back out. Now you've gone and done and spent money. You've gone and done things and spent money because they had offered you a job. Legally, they have to keep that because otherwise, it's like a big lawsuit. I forget what it's
Yeah.
called, but
So,
that is actually something.
hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that's actually really nice. So, for those of you who are renting or will be renting at some point, you can usually get some sort of lease break clause inside of the contract that says something along the lines of within the first month or two, if for whatever reason I can't remain here, then I can get out of the lease. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is whenever a contract is, we're getting into like legalese at this point, but um, and also I'm not an attorney, so make sure you go and if you want to verify this, go and talk to an attorney.
Yeah, same. Not
But
an
basically,
attorney.
under contract law, there is a duty for someone to minimize losses from a contract. So what this means is that let's say you go and get a lease with a company after you were hired at a job, and then the job backs out, and for whatever reason you can't, you know, force them to keep you hired or compensate you in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the company literally just died the week after you signed your leasing contract. Okay, well, the lessor, the person leasing to you, they have when you tell them, "Hey, this job just I no longer have a job in this area, so I won't be staying here. I have to abandon the lease. Sorry, bye." Well, they can say, "Oh, but," and some of the crappy ones will, but they have a duty to basically try and fill that spot as soon as possible, even if it's for like $100 less. Because you, the lessee, will be on the hook for anything that they aren't able to recoup. So they have a duty to basically minimize their losses. So they might put your apartment on the back on the market at the same price, or potentially even more. But if they put it on for more and it doesn't sell after like half a month, they'll probably reduce it to like $100 less than your lease is, just to try and get someone in there, because they have to demonstrate to the courts that they have attempted to minimize their losses. If they don't do that, there's a good chance that they just lose the contract entirely and they're told screw off. But a lot of but that also goes with the idea that after they send you to collections, you take them to court, which most people don't have the money for, a 30 grand. Most people don't have the 30 grand laying around to take the case to court.
Yeah.
So a lot of these crappy companies, unless you make it abundantly clear that you know that they are required to try and minimize their losses, a lot of them will just go, "Oh, okay," and then they'll just. Sometimes they won't even put it back on the market. They'll just be like, "Okay, well, you're still on the hook," and then they'll just send you to collections because most people can't afford to fight it. So when something gets sold to collections, by the way, there's that term "sold to collections." That is because they take your debt and they sell your debt to a debt collector. The debt collector then takes that debt that they bought for how much, and then they add like five to $10,000 in processing fees to it, and then that's what they're going after you for. So it's this incredibly just disgusting system that is designed to essentially just keep the poor as possible. Because if you're wealthy enough to where you don't have to worry about any of this crap, then you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
If you don't have access to that, then you absolutely are screwed because yeah, $1,000 rent bill might turn into $11,000 in debt to be collected. So, it is what it is. And then that debt collector will basically force you to keep coming back to that area to go to court because they will keep trying to pull you into court because they have to, and then they'll also charge you for taking you to court because they have to basically show that they are attempting to collect on that debt to the courts because the courts are not happy with people or entities that that sleep on their rights, essentially. So you need a documented, basically paper trail of saying that you've been trying to collect the debt. Granted, as I said, the debt went from $1,000 to $11,000. And so these debt collection companies, they essentially just sit there and they don't care. They'll be processing like 1,000 debt claims. And most of those people will not declare bankruptcy. They'll just make minimum payments. And so these companies essentially just have a bunch of people making, small payments to them and they're raking in the cash hand over fist. So it's a really, really, really nasty way of just essentially keeping people in perpetual debt. But it's not like it's not the system wasn't designed with that in mind. It's just a consequence of the system operating, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. But we should probably wrap this up, Finn.
Indeed. All right.